Hey, what's up, everyone? Today we're going to be breaking down the 60-meter indoor track and field championship final. And really, if you didn't see it, we know that Christian Coleman ended up winning this with a 6:41. There's a big, and really going into it, we all knew that it was going to be a competition, mainly a competition between Noah Lyles and Christian Coleman. Noah Lyles won the U.S. indoor 60-meter championship. We did a breakdown on that a couple weeks ago. And the big thing was going to be if Christian Coleman would be able to beat him here in the finals. And even based off of what we saw in the U.S. Championship, it was definitely not out of the question. We saw a very similar type of race here with Christian Coleman doing a great job of being able to get out and have great acceleration. What really stands out when you watch this here is just such a great low heel recovery, right? When he's first accelerating, he's barely lifting those feet up off the ground and really driving those knees not only up, but really outwards, right? He covers a lot of distance very, very quickly as he's beginning to accelerate here. And that really makes a big difference when it comes to being able to get into his drive phase and the speed that he's able to get into the top end speed. And this is why he's making an argument to be the greatest 60-meter athlete ever. And I don't think that it's hard to be able to argue with that because he has the world record for the 60. He's won the indoor championship for the last few years, every time that he's basically been eligible. And I don't think he has any sign of slowing down, right? I mean, he just has such great acceleration. Yeah, he needs to work on his top speed for sure. And he's going to probably put a big emphasis on that going into the outdoor season. But his ability to accelerate, his ability to get through his drive phase is such a top notch thing. And, I really like this view here on the left side. And what we can see with it is just how he has such great foot contact time. So when he's landing here, and, this is a hard thing to be able to really teach. And that's really why I do these breakdowns, is to make it so as a coach, I could better relate and connect and be able to better explain what are some of the things that are going on within running mechanics to make it so athletes can be able to improve, right? And so with that, you want to be able to be as technically sound as possible and be able to coach things that will make the most amount of sense or connect to athletes to the best way. And this is one of those things where, it's hard to kind of coach Christian Coleman out of it because it is such a unique ability to really have great foot contact time. I think that it might end up being a difficult thing when he gets to his top speed to be able to generate as much force in the ground with so much external rotation, right? Because there's more force that's going to be generated into the ground by using straight extension, what would be the name for what would be happening here. Because right now it's going to be external rotation, so you can see how his toes facing straight ahead, and then he's turning to the outside. So that's going to be extension as well as external rotation of the hip, where we can see like Noah Lyles, he's getting more just straight extension. So you can see how that leg's more locked into place. He's getting a little bit of external rotation, but more straight extension of the leg or pulling back of the leg. So that's going to use more hamstrings and glutes. And that's really before the foot contact time. That's what is one of the most active times that the hamstrings are when it comes to the fastest athletes in the world. And you could really see that here in slow motion and from this view, how there's a lot of extension happening here. But with the difference with Christian Coleman, this is obviously going to be more bicep femoris hamstring, because that one does more external rotation of the femur. But it's also a great ability to stay very forward, because now he's landing a little bit more on the outside part of the foot and then immediately transitions right back to the front edge of the foot. And that's why I say it's hard to teach this, because it's one of those things where if you have to almost be born with the ability to already do it instead of have to learn it, right? Because if you have to learn this, it's just such a hard thing to be able to reenact, right? Where Noah Lyles is much more of like a technically sound movement pattern where you're just going straight forward, straight back. And obviously when it comes to the longer distances, Noah Lyles is a lot cleaner and is a lot more technically sound, right? But what is needed, especially for the 60-meter, right? 60-meter, it's much more about being quick and having great acceleration, where when you go more in like the 200, where Noah Lyles is obviously one of the best ever, it's a lot more about that technical part of it, right? You have to be very specific in the technique side. Not to say that 60-meter is not a technical race, because it is. They're all very technical races. But I think that when it comes to being very technical technically sound count as much in the 60 as it does in something like the 200, right? When it comes to the 60, your start and your drive phase, right? That first 30 meters is really a big determinant of who's going to win the race. Whoever can run the fastest 30 meters a lot of times is either going to win the race or at least be in the top three, right? So if you really got to be able to win that first 30 meters. And you could even see here with Christian Coleman, like right here, he's at his top speed, right? And he's starting to go down. He really has to push and hold here to be able to maintain and have a good quality finish or to be able to win the race. Where and Noah Lyles is coming, you could tell with how open his stride is, right? That's what really stands out, is because he has a little bit better control with his leg, he is continuing to get more flexion. He can keep his center of mass underneath him a little bit more. Talking about Noah Lyles here, right? We could see his body. Look at how much more controlled he is with his body and being able to get really good reach out in front. Where Christian Coleman, again, with this turnout, it's very quick. It's very effective. It's excellent turnover, but it makes it so now he's very susceptible to getting his legs stuck back behind him. That's what he does a really good job of here at the beginning, is he pushes out so well with those legs. He gets so much extension out in front of him that makes it so then he could really create such a great horizontal force. Well, now as that gets into his top end speed, when he's pushing off the ground with that much force, he's getting stuck with feedback behind him, right? He's not able to get as much of the good knee drive because he's generating so much force back behind, right? Where Noah Lyles does a much better job of getting that knee drive all the way up and generating force into the ground. So then he transitions right back up and is able to cycle through quickly. So it's a lot cleaner, a lot more efficient action with what Noah Lyles is doing, and being much more controlled, much more balanced, has like an equal amount of force both with his foot contact as well as that horizontal push forward, where Christian Coleman doesn't have as much of that force into the ground, but does a great job of creating a lot of force off of the ground. And so just being able to understand or differentiate between those two types of runners and the two different types of running styles, I think it really help you in being able to utilize both to help you in being able to potentially improve your start, right? If you're somebody that's saying, okay, I'm a more quick athlete and I could be better with my acceleration or want to work on my acceleration, then being able to really understand those first 5 to 7 steps and how to be able to push off the ground and how to be able to really utilize your feet to be able to get out is something that you can definitely take from what Christian Coleman's doing and apply to what it is that you're doing, and that low heel recovery, right? Keeping that foot really close to the ground. And then when you get more to your top speed, getting into that position, and I still think, and I've been talking about this for a long time, I still think Christian Coleman can improve here, and it would have such a big difference was once he can better understand how to balance such a strong push off, and with having great hip flexor strength and great ability to have the reach necessary to be able to transition from that drive phase or that acceleration phase into the top end. And I think that's where his biggest lack is that ability to transition from that acceleration phase into the top end speed. And the better he can do that, the more effective he can get with his hip flexor. And I think that Noah Lyles on the other side of that has amongst the best, right? Where he does such an effective job of getting from that acceleration, from that drive into the top speed, and is able to create so much reach and so much length. I mean, look at how long his stride is. He's really opening up with each one of these steps, where you could see Christian Coleman, yeah, he's not as tall, but he's just not picking up nearly as much distance. Even you could just look at his leg cycle, you could tell he's not reaching out nearly as much, right? He's not nearly as effective with his leg cycle as Noah Lyles is. And at the end of the day, he's like he said, he might be the 60-meter GOAT. And I wouldn't disagree with that in any means, but in terms of top speed, the fastest person in the world, and typically we measure that by who's going to run the 100 or the fastest in the 100. I think he's going to have a hard time being able to really compete there until he could really understand that transition phase and get a more effective top end. So as always, guys, if you like the information, click that thumbs up down below, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations, you can leave those down below. I think there's a lot of great things that you could take away from this and utilize within your own training, within your own sprinting mechanics, and make it so you could just run that much faster and be that much better of a sprinter. So thanks for watching videos. Like, subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.